Today we're gonna make stuffed bell peppers with quinoa. I've kind of tweaked the recipe a little bit. It's a recipe that I found on allrecipes.com. That'll be linked down below in the description box, along with all the little tweaks that I made to the recipe. One of them being they use chicken broth. I use vegetarian just to keep this vegan. I've also added a few other little ingredients just to kind of give the bell peppers a little more hardiness, or the stuffing a little more hardiness. And we're gonna go ahead and start cooking. The first thing you wanna do is make sure you slice your bell peppers lengthwise, clean out the insides, put them in a dish. The recipe calls for a greased 9x13 baking dish. I didn't use that. I used parchment paper. You don't need to use grease to cook these bell peppers. You really just have to put them into the oven for a little bit, probably about 15-20 minutes, just to get them a little tender, and then take them back out so you can start stuffing them with your stuffing once it's made. There's just no reason to add extra grease, cholesterol, and all that crud to the recipe if it doesn't need to be. So just don't do it. You don't need it. Okay, so first what you want to do is take your olive oil in your pan. I didn't use olive oil, obviously. I never really follow the recipe all the way. Have you noticed this? I always tweak the recipe. Anyways, so I used an avocado and coconut oil blend because it can go to a higher heat without burning, and olive oil tends to burn at a lower heat, and I don't want to do that, especially when I'm sauteing my onions, which is the first thing you're going to have to do. So I'm going to heat up my oil and throw the onions in the pan, and I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Not really, because I'll chop all that out and you'll see me really soon. So bye. Like most of my recipes that I make, I like to make things look pretty, and you know, I think you guys appreciate it too. So I didn't use all red bell peppers. I used a variety of colors because it's bright, pretty. Okay, so once you have your onions sauteing in your pan, let that happen for about 5-10 minutes. Let it all saute in there. Just make sure you give it a stir every now and then so it doesn't stick. And then after that, you want to add your garlic. Why? I need to put my phone on silent. Okay, so once your onions are sauteing for about 5-10 minutes, you want to go ahead and throw in your garlic, your cumin, and your salt and pepper, and just let it get nice and fragrant for probably about a minute. You'll definitely smell everything starting to come together. And then we'll just let that simmer for about another minute, and after that, we'll start adding the rest of the ingredients into your mix. Okay, so you're gonna notice that once you put the garlic and the salt, pepper, and cumin in there, it gets thick really quickly because most of the oil's been absorbed by the onion that was sauteing. So just make sure you have your chicken broth ready to go, your tomato, your quinoa, and the carrots, because it's what you're gonna put in next to help, you know, get everything together and help anything that's stuck on the bottom of your pan come up. Just make sure you have everything, all your ingredients measured out. It will make your life much easier before you start cooking. Trust me. And I would highly suggest adding the vegetable broth first versus the tomatoes or the quinoa or things like that. Just get that vegetable broth in there, and it'll help bring everything up off the bottom of your saucepan if anything is stuck there, like any of the seasoning. It already smells so good. Okay, we're gonna stir in the tomatoes. And I'm also going to add the diced mushrooms. I grabbed probably just a small handful and I diced them up nice and small and removed the stems. I'm just gonna throw those in here just to give it a little more. I don't know why I always do this to recipes, but I tend to add mushrooms or something to the recipe because I wanna see something else in there. So this recipe, we're going to have some extra mushrooms. Carrots. Well, it's an empty dish, but there were shredded carrots in there. And because I like to be different, I have used regular quinoa and red quinoa. I had red quinoa left over, so I figured, why not just use it? It'll be a nice, pretty change. See? Making things look pretty. It's my style. I decided to use the Sweet Earth Tuscan Savory Grounds. Just because it kind of goes with what I'm cooking anyways. It already has red bell pepper and garlic in there, along with some fennel seed, red bell pepper, and kale. So it'll just be, you know, a little extra something to put into my bell peppers because I like to change recipes. This is my first time using this brand, actually. I usually use Beyond Meat, I think is what it's called. It has a little cow on the front. But I'll try this, why not? Sounds good. Can't really smell it. Duh, it's in plastic. All right, so I think I'm just going to add about half of this. I'm not gonna do the whole package. If I do, I'm going to have just way too much stuffing for 6 halves of bell peppers. I'm already going to have a little more than I think I should. I think this recipe calls for a bit too much quinoa, and probably didn't help matters that I added mushrooms and this. I don't think I added anything else. I thought about it, but I didn't. This stuff comes already pre-cooked, so really all you have to do is just reheat it until it reaches 165 degrees. Or just simmer it, you know, for as long as the package says. I'm just gonna go on the record now and say this because I've made this recipe 3 times now. It takes longer than 12 minutes, allrecipes.com. I don't know where you got this recipe from, but it takes longer than 12 minutes for that quinoa to get cooked because it's been well over 12 minutes. This is where your reserved tomato juice from your diced tomatoes will come in handy. You can add a little bit of that, or you can add a little bit of extra vegetable broth to help the quinoa cook because it seems like it's just, you know, soaking up all the liquid that's in there, and I still need some liquid to be able to cook my spinach in and for the beans so they don't stick to anything else in the pan. But it takes longer than 12 minutes to cook this quinoa. I'm just warning you now. Have extra liquid set aside just in case. If you just added the quinoa already cooked to the recipe, I think it would be a heck of a lot easier and really cut down on your cooking time. Okay, so using those little Tuscan flavored grounds definitely changed the flavor. The fennel seeds come out a lot more pronounced than anything else, and the ground cumin that I just put into the recipe is pretty much overpowered by the fennel seeds. So if you're not really a fan of fennel seeds or that flavor, then maybe opt for something that isn't flavored for crumbled beef if you want to add that in. Okay, I'm going to add the whole bag of spinach. I think I need a bigger saucepan. And then you want to stir it all around. I'm going to let this wilt down a little bit, and then I'm going to add the beans. I honestly feel like I could make twice as many stuffed bell peppers just with this stuffing right now. Okay, so the spinach is all wilted down, and now I have enough room, barely, to fit the black beans into the pan and stir those in. I would suggest folding them in gently so your stuffing doesn't go flying everywhere all over your stove. It looks really pretty. It's about to fall out of the pan, so I can't hold it here for much longer. Okay, so once you're all done folding in the black beans, what you're gonna need to do next is take the pan, transfer it over to your counter by where your bell peppers are, and then start spooning the mixture into the bell peppers, and then just top it with your favorite vegan cheese because, well, I want to keep this a plant-based recipe. So I'm going to use vegan cheese and throw it into the oven for probably about 15-20 minutes or until the cheese is melted. Hopefully it doesn't take as long as the quinoa did to cook. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what it's going to look like after you stuff them, but before you put on your cheese. And there they are, halfway done. Just a little bit of cheese on top. Don't want to do it too much because there's still a little bit of fat in that cheese, so to keep it healthy, let's go a little light on the cheese. I'm going to pop my bell peppers into the oven for about 15 minutes or just until the cheese starts to melt. Sometimes vegan cheese can take a little bit longer than regular dairy cheese to melt, so just be aware of that. And then just going to whip up a salad and dinner is served. Thanks for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and if you have any comments, suggestions, please be nice. Just leave them down below and I'd be happy to get back to you guys. Thanks so much. Love you. Bye.